can go to click the three buttons.
Yeah.
And you can do start video.
Right here.
Yeah. Do
You want me
that.
to do that?
Well, actually, yep, there you go. So now you're on screen.
Okay, I'm good.
You're on screen and they can hear you. So
Okay, they can hear us.
I'll go back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh.
Morning, Joe.
Hi. Hi, Bobby.
How you doing?
Thanks for being here.
Kind of cold and cruddy.
It's what?
It's kind of cold and cruddy outside.
Yeah, you're right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
But once everything stops and the sun comes out, it's going to be really, it's going to really green up. You know.
Oh, I know. The yards are growing like crazy right now. Did we get another person for that empty seat on our committee?
I'm not aware. I'm having a hard time hearing you, so I'm going to go ask for help on turning up the volume. Hi, Rita.
Bobby, we did, I think, get one application.
Uh-huh.
Interviews will be May 24th.
Oh,
And
okay.
then council will appoint those to make appointments to boards, and then it needs to go in resolution. Am I correct,
Okay.
Rita?
Yes, that will happen. I think we interview first, and so I'm not aware of how many applicants, but I know that Debbie is, and so and I mean Joe or Jonathan Lieberman has already been appointed, correct?
So Jonathan was not able to serve on the board because of the meeting taking place in the afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
we did advertise this last go round. And my understanding is that we do have at least one applicant, but then as you guys interview, we'll see if there's more interested.
Right. That might be possible. So
Yeah. Hopefully we'll have some interest.
yeah, hopefully. So how many members short are?
Just one.
Just one?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and Debbie, I just wanted to say, I was looking for something on the website. I was going to print something out. This doesn't have anything to do with this. And I think they're experiencing problems on the website because I got a message that said IT is working feverishly to get this problem fixed.
Ah, okay.
So there's probably a problem there.
Yeah. I had to completely shut down my computer and restart it to try to get it to.
Wow. So you got what you needed, right?
I did, yeah.
Good.
Are we expecting Jim Woodward?
I have not heard otherwise, so we'll say yes.
So if it's okay, we'll give it just a minute or two before I call the meeting to order. Okay.
Let me see. we need Jim in order to have a quorum. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say there's not a quorum without one more
Yeah.
member.
Can you text him, Debbie? I mean, yeah. that's-
yeah,
So has everybody got their vaccines?
Oh,
I know they've been doing them down there at Malley now.
get a response. Usually, like with Parks and Rec, he usually joins just a minute or so right before. So this is where we need that vacancy filled.
Yes,
Debbie, were you able to reach him or not?
I've sent an email. I'm going to mute and I'm going
There
to
he
try.
is.
Oh, there he is.
there he is. Hi, Jim.
Hello, I'm sorry. I was having a little problems with my computer. Too many emails that I hadn't looked at.
I think it's an afternoon for that. We were just talking with several of us.
Open for weeks, I guess.
thank you, Jim, for being here. And the meeting, it is Monday, May 3rd, several minutes after 5 minutes after 2, and this meeting is called to order. And Debbie, if you would kindly take care of the roll call.
Okay, so Chairman Joe DeMoor,
Yes, here.
Vice Chair Bobby Harris,
Here,
Jim Woodward,
Here,
we have Council Member Rita Russell,
Here,
staff, we have Director Christina Underhill,
Here.
Recreation Manager Allison Boyd.
here.
Thank you.
Are there any additions to the minutes of Monday, February 1st, 2021? Is there?
no, I will go ahead and move the minutes of February 1, 2021 as written.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. The motion was made by Jim Woodward to accept the minutes of February 1st, 2021, and seconded by Bobby Harris. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? All those who opposed? The motion is carried unanimously. Okay. And then under new business, 6A, the April 5th, 2021 City Council presentation. And I believe Christine and Allison, you'll make a present or say a few words about the request.
Yeah, good afternoon. So we did take your request to City Council back on April 5th and gave a presentation of the items that were being requested by the trust fund to utilize trust fund funds. And tonight it's under consent to officially approve the request moving forward. And so we anticipate it will be approved as there were not too many questions or any questions regarding the expenditures that were requested. Also, we did find out from our finance department that annually, every year, $35,000 is typically budgeted from the trust fund. There's an appropriation of that could be used for various purposes that we wouldn't necessarily need to go back to council every time we have a request. It's something that council would approve in the annual budget process. And then that way, if something comes up throughout the year, you have an idea of something you would like to add into the Malley Center, a program of such, something that would improve the facility. If it's within that allocated amount, we would be able to move forward with those funds. And so it sounds like 35,000 is something that's been appropriated each year. But the question to you all is that enough? Is that too much? What are you comfortable with appropriating? And of course, if there's an idea that comes forth that's well above the 35,000, but you think it would fit well within the trust funds, it's something we would take back to council for official approval. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, Christina, did you say 35,000 or 75,000?
35,000.
Okay.
And so like this last request you all had with the items that were approved by you, it was just under $15,000. And so this was something new that we learned as we were working through the process of taking the trust fund requests to council. And so I think it speeds up the process. So if there was something you wanted back in February, we would have been able to purchase it quickly versus wait for the approval process to be put in place. So 35,000 is what it was in previous years. Is that something you're comfortable with? Or would you like it to be more or less? And it doesn't mean we have to spend it either. We could go a whole year and not spend any of it. Or like I said, if for some reason you find an item that's well over 35,000, we could go back to council for approval for the additional amount.
Okay. Well, it's nice to know it's there.
Yeah, I'm personally, I'm comfortable with the 35,000, but, and I might stand to be corrected, but several years ago, the amount was like 3 times that amount. And then it was, there was quite a bit of discussion as to how that ended up in the city budget. And Jim, can you help me with respect to what I'm trying to refer to?
No, I can't. I don't recall that discussion.
Okay,
In fact,
that's okay.
I'm
Yeah.
still trying to get clear in my own mind here. And help me out, Christina.
I
Is
can
this
make,
35,000 from the trust fund that they are approving, or have they appropriated 35,000 from the general fund?
35,000 from the trust fund is the way I
Okay.
understood it from our finance department.
So we can spend up to 35,000 without having to go to council. But if
Correct,
it's over that, then we have to get it approved.
correct.
Chair DeMoor, could I address the committee?
Please.
What I remember, and hopefully this will help Jim remember a little bit also. There was a question before, because we haven't had this much money in the trust fund for a while, and it was getting pretty low, but council was putting $35,000 in the budget so that if there were needs from the Malley Center Trust Fund, they could do that. And Jim, you actually had some questions about that automatic appropriation. We were told it was a placeholder, I believe, at the time.
Okay.
Does that help you, Jim, with?
That helps me a lot. I remember it now.
Okay,
I had a real problem with placeholders where all of a sudden there's just placeholders for non-budgeted numbers that inflate the budget. And I know they were doing that in other boards too. Specifically, what was it? I don't remember specifically what it was. It was another board I was on. And I had a real problem with it there. Bigger problem. But I see what they're trying to do right now is that they're utilizing, just so it's not coming back, so much stuff's coming back to council. Speaking for myself, I was on the trust fund when I was on council the whole time. So I thought it should be coming back for their approval. So they knew what we were doing. But no, I'm for it.
you're for it or you're not for it?
Well, I wasn't for it then. What was it, 3 years ago? I am
think
for
so.
it now. I understand what you're doing. You're not trying to appropriate, you're appropriating that number, basically saying the trust fund, we have the faith in you that you are going to spend it as fiduciaries up to that amount. And we're going to see it at some point anyway. And if you need or want more, you're going to come to us over the 35,000. So I guess I'm okay with that.
And Jim, just to clarify too, any funding that we would spend out of the trust fund, it would come before this group, before we would spend any of it. So it's not 35,000, we'll just go buy stuff with. You will know what we're purchasing prior. And then that's also the role of the liaison to council. So Councilmember Russell would then also during weekly reports be able to bring this up and report, hey, the trust fund is going to be purchasing new computers or whatever it may be, and report back to council. And so if there's any additional questions, Allison and I may go back to council to follow up, but this would at least allow us to purchase items faster so they can be put to use quicker too.
Yeah. The other board that I was on was Inglewood Urban Renewal Authority. And the placeholders there were pretty large. And it was like, this doesn't feel or sound good. It doesn't sound like good accounting practices. It just didn't feel right to me. And at the time, I don't think it felt right to you either, did it, Rita?
Actually, I was not on the urban renewal, but I agree that with you that the placeholder was a little bit troublesome. I kind of see now what they're trying to do. And thank you, Director Underhill, for reminding me that it will, I can take that information back to council. And And so the truth is, if the board was doing something, well, I don't know, if the board decided to do something, council, if the money's been appropriated, what you're suggesting then, Director Underhill, is if the board approves anything under that amount, it doesn't have to come back to council, so it can be spent.
Correct. That's my understanding from our finance department. As long as we appropriate it, council approves it saying this is okay, we agree to allowing you to spend this out of the trust fund. The trust fund then can bring up items if it's under 35. Like I said, if it goes over that amount, we would go back to council for that additional approval.
Okay, I appreciate that information. That helps me because I was not board at the time, but the financial situation of the trust fund was a little bit different then than it is now, so.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think there's some stuff in our bylaws or whatever that talks about city council approving any expenditures in advance. So now they basically say, okay, you have 35,000 to expend in advance. And it gives us opportunity too, as an example, if something happened at or at Malley, and this is a bad example, but I can't think of another one right now. When the coffee machine went out and people were complaining, no coffee. And we agreed as a trust fund to help fund that new machine that was a much better machine that was there in the past. And we put up part of the money, and part of the money the city or Malley had in their budget. We could have gotten that machine much quicker than we got it because it had to go back to council, then get approved. And if it's an additional appropriation, it has to go through 2 hearings. I mean, not 2 hearings, but 2 approvals, first and second reading, I would think. And then it's 30 days after that. So this, in the event of an emergency where something happened where you would need something, let's say the front desk fell down and wasn't repairable, the trust fund could approve it. That's a crazy example, but it's one that comes to mind.
Okay. Thank you for the discussion. And are there any other questions for Christina or Allison at this point?
Chair DeMoor, I think Allison had wanted to make a comment or something.
Yeah, thank you. You all are correct in the, it being confusing where we've had that 35,000 there so that we didn't have to go back to council. And then last year, I think there was kind of a revamping with finance and with the city attorney. And that's why it was brought forth this time, because in my 5 years, I've never brought anything to council that we've purchased because it's been under that amount. Right. The other thing too, our purchasing policies changed as well. So that amount that originally was set was because it was underneath some sort of, quoting kind of thing or whatever. But that 35,000 was, in the days of when Joe Sack was here, that we had appropriated that much. If we were talking about a new front desk, to use Jim's example, and we knew it was going to be more than $35,000, then this year, Christina and I would say, hey, we're going to spend probably $120,000 next year on a front desk revamp or whatever. And that was kind of the original plan, was to redo the front lobby area within more of an active space. And we've kind of pulled back on that a little bit the last couple of years. And it was always the intention was that once we were ready to do that, we would notify that the trust fund we would notify council that the trust fund wanted to spend $180,000, because that's not something you just want to dump on them before the budget year. That's a very large pre-planned expenditure, so to speak. it's not an emergency. It's not to be used as an emergency fund, I guess. The city would take care of that. However, that's just been kind of the placeholder we've had, and it's probably time to look at it to see if it, if you're happy with 35,000, I think that's fine. We haven't gone over that. And it's been just items that we've needed or we've wanted or that provide, and our TVs broke and we needed bigger TVs because people were complaining about the smaller ones. And, those kind of things just come up that we don't really budget for in a sense. So just, I think knowing that now is good about that money's there, that we don't have to go to council and do what Jim was describing with the 2 meetings and all that, and it really slows up the process.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Has anybody checked with the bylaws? Is there anything in the bylaws that would prohibit us from doing this?
Oh, my.
I don't think so, Rita. When we read through them, I mean, Christina, you could correct me. I don't, they're very old. It actually, the reason that it came up that we did need to go to council was because the city attorney was telling us that that's the way the bylaws read. I inherited, hey, you don't have to go to council if it's underneath this amount. And then we were told different because of the bylaws. So that's something that this group could look at, if those bylaws need to be amended or, put in what we're doing now and just revise them. I would suggest that perhaps. Yeah, you could. Yeah. So I don't know. There is an amendment in there, but it's pretty old as well. The original bylaws, from the 70s, I think, 77 or 83 or something.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Is the 35,000, is that a number that other boards have too? Or, I can't think of any other trust funds, but.
No, I believe this is yours solely. I don't think there's too many others or any others that have funding source like you do. I could be wrong on that, but I don't believe
Right.
that's the case.
Yeah, the urban renewal is the only one that comes to mind real quick. So that would.
That 35,000 is just a number that was put in, that was recommended in the past. We can drop that down to less amounts. I don't anticipate raising it any, because like I said, we have the opportunity to go back. If you found something you really wanted to buy that was well over 35, we could go back to council and talk about approvals for that. But are you comfortable with 35 going forward for 2022? Do you want to drop that down to 20 or less? What are your thoughts?
I-
35 seems excessive to me. Having been on this board most of the year since 2004, 35 is probably one of the highest numbers we would ever spend in a year. And I think it's kind of the duty of council to know in advance and approve an expenditure that gets up that high. So here, this one was 9,000 plus 5,000 contingency for other things that came up that we hadn't thought about. So, or that staff hadn't thought about or thought they may need. So I think 20 would be a number that, and it also, I would think council would think 20 isn't much, but it helps with the budget. Taking that out of the placeholder.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think 35 is really high. Since I've been on the trust fund, we haven't really spent anything. But 35 sounds high to me too. And I would think 20 would be more than enough. And if we need more than that, we just take it to council.
Joe, do you agree with that?
Oh, boy. I think I'm comfortable with the 35,000, but I do understand Jim's comments and Bobby, and I respect their comments and their experience. I want to just mention that regardless of what the amount is, we always have to approve it as a committee. So I believe we'd be fine. I can go either with the 35 or the 20. I'm not sure it makes a big difference. So that's my opinion.
So one other question for Director Underhill and Allison. If we don't spend the 35,000, does it just revert back into the Malley Center Trust Fund budget? Or it's really not taken out of our budget until we actually spend it?
Correct. Yeah, I would just continue to roll. So if we don't spend anything, that just rolls over to the next year and stays in the fund until we do spend it.
Now, one other question that I have is the Malley Center itself has a budget, right? So like when we have to replace equipment and things like that, that's already in your budget. That's not something that this board would do.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
This funding is kind of above and beyond. So like the front desk, if it collapsed tomorrow, if the trust fund said we really want to put money into that, we could, but that's something also we could look at the capital side of things and potentially do a renovation out of that too. So there's different ways to go about it, but you're correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Rita, do you have a opinion on the 20 or 35?
Either way, I would support either one. I think that this board is very fiscally responsible, and as long as the money is going to stay in the Malley Center Trust Fund, unless you all spend it, I think that would be okay.
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 So 2-2 is a no vote. So leave it as the 35,000 is what I'm hearing.
It sounds fine with me.
Except for I think you have to actually take a vote.
Okay.
Debbie, do you want to do roll call and just go for a vote, ask each one?
Or I could withdraw my.
Oh, I'll just do roll call and you can say whether you're aye or nay. So Chair,
What are we voting on?
So this will be for the proposed appropriation of 35,000. If it gets a no vote, we'll then vote for 20,000.
Okay.
Okay, so 35 first. We'll see what we end up at.
okay, so just yes or no. So Chair Joe DeMoor? And you said yes?
Yes.
Okay. Vice Chair Bobby Harris?
No.
All right. Jim Woodward?
No.
And Councilmember Rita Russell?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll then do a vote for 20,000 going forward, which I'm assuming be yes.
Okay.
But let's just verify officially. Go ahead and do the same thing for 20.
All right. So Chair Joe DeMoor?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bobby Harris?
Yes.
Jim Woodward?
Yes.
And Councilmember Rita Russell?
Yes.
All right.
All right, so
Okay.
we'll draft a memo for our finance department requesting the appropriation of 20,000 out of the trust fund. So for future purchases in 2022, we'll have $20,000 to look at. And if we go over that, like I said, we'll go back to council for approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on under new business 6B. Allison, would you care to provide a COVID-19 update and how it concerns Malley?
Sure. Well, and the overall concern with the COVID regulations being lifted, starting May 17th. We won't have any restrictions with spacing, capacity, and things like that. The mask order is still in effect until June 30th, I believe, and it could be extended. It may not. We'll adjust as necessary. But starting May 17th, we do have the option of pretty much open the way we've always been open in regard to numbers.
Wow, good.
So yeah, so it's the clear level that we'll be moving into. So staff is preparing for that. We're still going to keep machines kind of separated, and particularly here at Malley, we're going to keep 3 of the machines in our fitness room that we had planned on fixing up into more a fitness room anyway. So that will spread out the cardio equipment a little bit better, the non-plugged in cardio equipment. So we're still going to try and keep people spaced away. We're going to still have some signage about cleaning the machines after you use them, providing hand sanitizer and things like that for people if they need it. We're going to keep the plexiglass barrier up at the front desk to protect staff, and moving forward with that. So that's coming up. And then with the vaccine clinic, we are now moving towards, last week was the first week where we were open all day, well, most of the day, 9 to 3, with a break from 12 to noon. And drop-ins are allowed. So you don't have to make an appointment to come to the vaccine site. So that's some of the materials we're getting out right now. We're also getting some materials now about vaccine hesitancy, so that we can encourage people and help them to understand what the vaccine is about. And if they have any questions, or they're scared to take it, or they don't understand the effects, that we have some material from the CDC and Tri-County to help explain that to them. So Tri-County supplied that to us. We are able to take around 250 to 275 people to shots, I guess I should say, which is about that many people. We're doing a lot of second doses. We are seeing a slowdown in the first doses. So we're reaching that point where our demand is not as much as our supply. I don't know if that's good or that's bad. We'll continue to encourage people to come and get their shots. And so the anticipation was that the clinic would be open through August, and it might close earlier than that, depending on how many people we're getting in with reservations. And then we'll assign a time that we'll either shut that off to drop-ins, but that won't be for a couple more months, I would think. I don't know, we'll see, because we still have second shots to do, which means we're moving 3 weeks into the future every time we are open a week. So did anybody get their shot here at Malley? Or know of anybody that you recommended to come here?
No, I have a question for you though. Are you publicizing this anywhere that Malley is a vaccination site? Because I haven't seen anything. I mean,
yes.
I know it is
Oh.
because I ran into it when I came down to pick lunch up, but.
Right. Yes, it's been on the, it's on our website. It's been on our Facebook post and social media. And it's also on the Tri-County website, and it's like vaccine/Englewood. So it's a list of their sites. So if somebody went to the Tri-County website, they would see our site there. We're still doing phone calls to people, asking them how they are. Do you need vaccine information or anything like that? And we're catching people as they come in to the center. We still do. We have some material at the recreation center as well, letting people know that we have a clinic over here. So yes, there has been some. It's going to be in the magazine coming up here that will come out at the end of this month. So yeah, I'm sorry you didn't see it anywhere else but here.
Oh, that's okay. I've gotten mine, but I just didn't know till I ran into it one day when I came to do lunch. It was the day that Senator Hickenlooper was over there.
Okay.
Actually.
Yeah. And that was on our YouTube channel and put on YouTube and whatnot. So we're really working on getting the word out and working closely with the housing authority. They've been cold calling and letting their people know that the clinic is available here as well.
Okay.
So
Allison, when we're not having an event at Malley, would it be appropriate to consider placing the as a vaccination site on the marquee outside?
I believe it's on there.
Oh, already?
Yeah, it's been on there, yes.
All right. I
Yeah,
just,
I think now it says drop-ins available too with
Really?
the date. I'll double check though. That's a good point because we could be promoting for just drop-in vaccines. Come on in off
Yeah.
the street. Yeah, I'll check on that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any,
Um,
yeah, excuse me.
Yeah, sorry. No, that's fine. That's all I had.
Okay.
Allison, to answer your question, I've referred, I think it's 6 people over, and they've all been over there having at least their first, some have had their second shots.
Good.
So,
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Allison? Okay, moving on under item 7, old business. The Malley Trust Fund vacancy, and Allison, would you care to comment, please?
Yes, I heard you talking before we started as well that we do have one applicant as of now. And the interviews are being held on May 24th. The appointments will go into effect on July 1st. So the first meeting of any new member would be August 2nd, for the record.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Allison? And if I could just make mention of the fact that Earl Huff communicated with me, and he was very appreciative of the gift that was provided for him. Okay, I can't tell you everything that was part of the gift, but it really touched his heart, and he really appreciated it. Allison, Christina, everyone that was involved. So thank you. Okay, moving on, item number 8 under reports, the trust fund financial report. Should I be doing this?
Well, we don't have a report because they come out quarterly. So the report you see is the most current,
Okay,
the February 28th. We'll
okay,
have one at the next meeting.
all right, thank you. Any questions for Allison regarding what we have in front of us?
What is where it says interest credited to the fund, when I look at the schedule of income and expenditures, we have a positive 5907 in January and a negative 385.89 in February. What is that? Because I'm suspecting that the net of those two is what's being subtracted. When you bracket it, that means you're subtracting it. What does that mean?
There was an adjustment in the portfolio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Jim, would you like to comment further?
well, probably a good example of how that would work is if some of these investments, and these are very conservative investments, and they're for all of the funds of the whole city. And so they're divided up. And if it's like in a bond fund, and the bond is worth, just as an example, $8 per share for short-term bonds or something like that, and the dividend comes in, and the next month it goes down to $7.99 per share, then that would lower, even though the dividend came in that next month, the value would have lowered.
The total.
I understand that. I just wasn't clear on what it was.
Yeah.
There was no notation anywhere that this was a portfolio valuation adjustment or anything. So,
Well, let's see. It's, yeah.
It just says interest.
If you go to
credit.
the prior page, Bobby, if you look at the prior page, some of that is talked about in that first couple paragraphs there that,
Okay,
yeah, it's very, very, very conservative is what the city
Okay.
can
that's
invest in.
fine. I just wasn't clear on it.
Okay, and then moving on to number 8, B. And Christina or Alice or Allison, would you care to provide an update for Parks, Recreation, Library, and Golf report?
Allison, you want to go first?
Sure, just a few things that in regards to programming. We are going to be starting back hikes and our trip program in July. Kind of looking at where we're going to go, and we'll require people to wear masks on the bus. We're working on trying to go to places like the baseball games and places that are open, but we're kind of moving back into programming like we regularly have done. It'll be interesting to see how many people are comfortable in coming back. So we're not anticipating all of our buses being filled for the trips, because we already have people say, I'm done, I'm going to take the summer off, but we'll see what happens in the next couple months. So we are planning for summer programming. We've got some speakers coming up, and we are looking forward to planning for our special events in the fall, doing some things like that. The Buzz Room has been gaining some interest with people coming in and asking questions and sitting down and looking through things. We have printed materials that people can sit down there and look at, and we've had some questions, a lot of questions about the vaccine, and other questions that we're able to refer people to the appropriate like housing authority or any kind of food issues that are going on with them. So we're really working on being out in the community so that we can help people in this area.
I want to
And
compliment you, Allison, on the rack you have in there with the information. It's
Yeah.
really a lot of stuff. I spent quite a bit of time just going through it and kind of pulling some things and all the Dr. Cog information and stuff like that. So in the
yeah,
town.
it's much easier to look at there than in the between the sliding doors at the front. So thought that was a better place to put that.
Yeah,
People are
it's-
able to
it's-
spend some time and look at it. And one of the benefits to this room is that people are meeting some social needs. They're able to interact, where they don't have to pay to get in. They can come in and just talk to us and get that as well. So we've had some comments with that. But yeah, the room's coming along pretty nice.
It's a great resource.
Yeah, along with that, the summer programming is moving along. We've got softball leagues getting ready to start up, and outdoor things going, camps, tennis, all sorts of fun stuff happening. So we're hoping to get people out in the parks and in the centers. I think that's probably about it. What's going on?
Yeah, if I could ask you, Allison, and I should have asked you before, when Malley on May 17th goes back to regular programming, so to speak, does that mean we're going to have hours into the evening and open on Saturdays, et cetera?
Well, we've been open on Saturdays. So we've been open for a while on Saturdays.
Okay.
Yeah, the hours that we're at right now are, we're closing at 5. And we are looking at opening up a little bit later. We just don't have the programming right now that we were offering before.
Okay.
The other component of that is that we have a registration system now where you have to register to come in, and we'll be phasing that out a little bit because we don't have the capacity restrictions. That was really why we had that, so that we didn't reach capacity. So those kind of things you won't see. We might keep it another week or so past that. It's not like everything's going to drop on the 17th. But we're just gonna have to see the next week or so where we're at.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just add a few other things into it. So as far as renovating parks are concerned, Romans Park is currently under renovation. They've had a new playground put in, new tennis courts. We're putting in a new restroom structure, new picnic shelter. There's fitness equipment going in, new pathway. So Romans Park is looking really nice. It will be under renovation through the summer. We're also going to be renovating 3 other parks, Baker, Cushing, and Centennial. We received $2.2 million from the unassigned fund balance from council to do these renovations. And so we're in the contract phase and working to get that finalized and then run it through council for approval. The bid did come in higher than expected. It came in at about 2.9 million. So we have some additional funding that we're able to utilize in our accounts. And so that that renovation process will happen throughout the summer into the fall and potentially into next year. But new playgrounds, new restrooms, new skate park at Cushing Park, just to get these parks renovated and become an interest to the community and something exciting for people to look forward to. Like Allison mentioned, special events are returning. We'll be having the Fireworks Festival on July 3rd. At Bellevue and Cornerstone Parks. We're looking forward to that. The fireworks will be at 9:15 p.m. The parks will open at 5 for people to set up. I'm sure they'll be out there much earlier than that, but 5 o'clock is the official start time. The library is going to fully reopen. It has been with limited hours over the last few months. It was closed pretty much all of last year due to COVID. So we're excited on May 24th, the library will return to normal hours again and be fully open. And then Pirates Cove is also going to be opening on May 29th at full capacity so far. Obviously COVID and restrictions could change that, but right now we're planning to be open to the public at full capacity, which we're very excited about. Farm and Train is also going to open, so something for everybody to go out and do with grandkids or family members if they're around. So that's all I've got. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Christina, in the City of Inglewood annual report for 2020, it noted that we were trying to get grant funding for Jason Park to replace the restroom, the picnic shelter, and basketball court. Have we been able to make progress in that regard?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's pending. We haven't officially received the grant yet. We just submitted it last week. So hopefully we'll find out in the next couple months if we're successful, and that will be another park that we'll be renovating if we are successful in that grant.
Okay, thank you. And just by chance, I know that that let's say I'm going to just use the example of Duncan Park. The city did a wonderful job renovating it. The bathroom's great and so forth. But I'm wondering, has it ever been considered to have the bathroom open past the October date and even through the winter for those? Because the days are sometimes very nice, and I'm just wondering if that's a consideration.
That could be a consideration. That's something I need to talk to the park staff. I know it's always a concern for the freezing temperatures when it does freeze, but I agree. Yeah, there's times that it's not that cold out into the fall and winter. So it's really to preserve the pipes in the restroom so there's not extensive damage if they do have a freeze. But I'll bring that up to them and see what they say.
Just a thought. And then I probably have mentioned this before, but I apologize if I have. But you know, the renovated playground at Mansfield and Galapagos, I believe that's Maddox Elementary School. But you know, they really did a fine job putting that together. And then with the new trash cans and the new bench, and it's just, everyone's, I think, taking pride in keeping it clean because it's very, very nice. But I know that's something that's happened in the past year. And I probably have already mentioned this, but it's really a very nice opportunity for Grandpa. Yeah.
Yep, good. I believe that's the school district's playground there, but yeah, I agree. And that's part of why we're renovating our parks. at Romans and Centennial and Baker and Cushing. It's just that point of pride. People get excited about new amenities and want to be out there and use it. And the more use, obviously, the more positive activities that we have going on. So I'm glad you said that. Very good. It's a good example.
And if no one else has any
I
thoughts,
have,
yeah, go ahead. Jim, you want to say something?
yeah, I have some on, will the programming be happening for classes then at Pirates Cove also for the summer?
I believe so, yes. It looks like we'll be returning to normal activities there. Brad Anderson will be at the Parks and Rec Commission meeting giving a full update on that next week. So you'll hear an update on all the different programs they have planned at Pirates Cove this summer.
Okay, and then on the shortfall on all the parks that are being renovated, we could have gone to Arapahoe County for a grant from the open space funding for that shortfall, couldn't have we? I mean, we would have had such a huge number that the city was putting in that I would think they would have jumped on that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And we did talk about and strategize some, and being that we had Jason Park already on the grant list, we just stuck with that. And we're utilizing 2 other funds, the Scott Property Fund and then the Parks and Lieu fee. Those 2 funds have not been touched in many years. And so those will run past council for a resolution to approve using those funds, which both are approved for renovation of existing facilities. In the way they're worded currently. So I agree with you, Jim, but we were just trying to strategize with Jason Park grant. Arapahoe County knew that was coming down the pipe. And so we wanted to make sure we were successful in at least obtaining 1 grant first.
Yeah, well, we're a year off now from that going back, aren't we?
Right.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah, it's the challenge is timing and the renovations, the planned renovations for the 3 parks is this year. And so we have plenty of need throughout our park system. We'll continue to look at projects in the parks and renovating those. And of course, Arapahoe County and the various grants that are out there will continue to utilize to help supplement some of the expenditures that we would incur in the renovation process.
Okay, and I'm going to voice my annual complaint that District 3, Council District 3, the only park is Duncan Park between Hampton and, between Hampton and Bellevue, east of Broadway. And it'd sure be nice if there could be at least some playground equipment on an upper portion of the Little Dry Creek Trail by Hosanna. I mean, even if it was spread out along that trail for little kids and stuff. I know, just speaking for myself, from when my son was small, and he's now 35, we went on that trail all the time, and in Hosanna when Parks and Rec had it. But I had to squeeze them between the gates to get them into the early childhood playground area that used to be at the high school, because that was all locked up. So it's just, there's nothing over here. And this is one of the main single family resident areas of Inglewood. This area from Clarkson to Broadway, from Hampton to Bellevue, it's all single family residents, and maybe a couple of duplexes, but certainly not apartments.
Jim, I'll take that into consideration as we're looking at all the parks to renovate and amenities to add in. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay. Well, I'll bring it up next year too, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Christina or Allison with respect to parks, recreation, library, and golf? Okay, so moving on, number 9, chairperson's choice. And I might have missed this, and I apologize, but, and I'm not saying I contributed to the handbook for members of boards, commissions, and committees, but I did look through it and I thought it was very well done. Is this now in effect? Yeah.
Yes, I believe so. Debbie might know a little bit more, but that was a document from, boy, it started last year.
Right.
I can check to see if there's an updated one from the one you have, but I thought it was, Joe. I can double check though.
Just curious, just because I think it's very well done. And I'm just wondering if, yeah, if it's been approved and everything is good to go, yeah. Okay, and then under trustee's choice, I can say, I'd like to say a few words, but at the same time, I would like to give our trustees the opportunity to say something if they would like.
Well, I just want to compliment staff at Malley and Parks and Rec. Being a lot has happened here in the last year since you've been here. And it's noticeable, it's going to be noticeable, really noticeable when all this stuff is completed. So great job. I think it's really made a difference. And I think staff at Malley is great. And
Thank you. Pass that on.
being over there once a week, I'm impressed.
Thank you, Jim. And then I'd like to mention, and this is something that's probably been going on forever and ever, but I notice it, I've noticed it near where I live at Canyon and Cherokee. For lack of better terminology, I'll call it sidewalk trimming, okay? Where the roots have caused the sidewalks to come up. And we have someone contracted to carve off the sidewalks so I don't trip in the middle of the night or anytime as I walk down the sidewalk with grandchildren or even by myself. And you know, this, I don't know if this is done in other towns and cities, but this is really, whoever you have contracted is really doing a great job, in my opinion, of trimming the sidewalk and making it, yeah, just wonderful. And I really, I personally really appreciate it. And I notice it throughout Inglewood that this is being done or it's been done. So anyway, that's it. Okay. And does anyone else have any other comments, questions, or concerns before we adjourn our meeting?
Hey, Joe,
Yes.
that handbook, I do have the version is the final version that you have, I believe.
Okay.
So
The one that Debbie emailed out to us,
yes,
is that fine? Okay,
it says final on it. So
okay.
And I do believe that council did approve that. I do believe it's been on the agenda recently. So, and I would just like to share a few things too, Chair DeMoor. I do greatly appreciate staff and all the hard work that they've done, especially in the last year. I think it's been very difficult for you all to adapt to everything that's going on. And I greatly appreciate everything you've done. And also, you know, I think public works staff is the staff that is responsible for hiring. The reason they went to shaving down those things, it's less expensive, than replacing concrete. And I've seen it in several areas also. But I greatly appreciate city staff. I greatly appreciate this board and the work that you do too. And so I'm looking forward to having a new member at the next meeting, right? Yeah, it'll be 3 months. So, okay. Thank you all.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments or concerns? Okay, it is now 3 o'clock and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, each of you, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Joe or Christina, I have a question.
Okay.
Do you think we're going to be able to get back to in person soon?
I would anticipate by your next meeting, we'll be looking at going back in person. Yes.
That'd be great.
That's great.
I think
Good.
council is talking about it tonight. And once council goes back to in-person meetings, then I think all the other boards will go back.
Good. Yeah, isolation isn't fun.
No,
Zoom meetings aren't fun either.
Look forward to seeing you
Okay.
in person next time.
all right, thank
All right,
you.
take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks.